Hey guys, can you tell what day it is? It's Tia Megan, and today is St. Patrick's Day. If you couldn't tell, you don't have a name like Megan without being a little Irish. But welcome to Music History. I'm gonna put my glasses on. And not music history, I'm sorry, women's history. And yesterday, we talked about Virginia Woolf. Now today, we're going to discuss Amelia Earhart, and we're still reading from the book, What Would She Do? 25 True Stories of Trailblazing Rebel Women. And I'm going to read the words, and then I'll show you the portrait when we're done. Amelia Earhart, the pioneer pilot. Amelia Earhart is best known for her fabulous flying achievements in the 20th century, but she also was an inspiration for supporters of equal rights for women and men today. She encouraged women to consider all careers, including those that traditionally were thought of as being only for men. And by excelling in her own career of aviation, she proved that the sky really is the limit. Name Amelia Mary Earhart, born July 24th, 1897, and she disappeared on July 2nd, 1937, at the age of 39. Her nationality is American and her profession is aviator. Amelia Earhart didn't behave like many people thought girls should at the beginning of the last century. Knitting and sewing? Nah. She was a tree climbing, sled riding, rat hunting kind of girl. Just because people told her that engineering, film directing, and law weren't for girls didn't mean that she couldn't do them. Instead, she kept a scrapbook of women who excelled in these areas of inspiration. A pilot dove towards Amelia at an air show when she was 10. Maybe he meant to scare her, but he did completely the opposite. Ooh. He made her want to fly, and 13 years later, at age 23, she went on her first flight. Instantly, she was hooked. On January 3rd, 1921, Amelia took off on her very first flying lesson. 6 months later, not only was she a pilot, but she'd saved enough for her wages to buy her own airplane, too. It was a bright yellow biplane, and she called it the Canary. Next, she decided to start setting aviation records, just like men did then. The following year, she became the first woman to fly to an altitude of 14,000 feet. Whoa, that's really up in the air, isn't it? In 1928, she was asked if she would like to become the first woman to fly across the Atlantic. Well, it was a no-brainer. Of course she would. And she did, with her crewmates Bill Stultz and Slim Gordon. They left Newfoundland on June 17th, 1928, and made history 21 hours later when they landed in Wales. Now she wasn't just famous in America, where her return to New York City was celebrated with a ticker tape parade. She was famous around the whole world. Amelia briefly took a break from setting records to marry publisher George F. Putnam. She had a very modern view of their marriage, speaking of it as a partnership and dual control. She kept her own name even. People didn't do that back then. I like that because I kept my own name. In fact, when I got married, my husband took my name, and he still has it, I think. Anyway, from then on, other aviation records tumbled one after another. Only one other person had flown across the Atlantic solo, and that was Charles Lindbergh. Amelia wanted to be the second person to do it, and the first woman. In 1932, she did it, and in 1935, she was the person to fly solo across the Pacific. She was the first person to fly solo across the Pacific and the first to fly solo from Mexico City to Newark, New Jersey. She wasn't matching records set by men anymore. She was setting brand new records. And then came the big one. Could she fly all the way around the world? She was going to give it a good try. She and her navigator, Fred Noonan, took off from Miami, Florida on June the 1st, 1937. 4 weeks later, their Lockheed Electra 10E landed in Papua New Guinea, and on July 2nd, it took off en route for a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific. Amelia Earhart never made it, but the world has never forgotten that she tried. What would Amelia do? Question, even the dog has a better cell phone than you. Well, no, not really, but that's what it feels like. You're desperate for an upgrade. But guess what? The grown-up in your life says a big fat no. What would Amelia Earhart do? Answer, Amelia Earhart was desperate for something far bigger and far more expensive than a cell phone. She wanted an airplane, and no way anyone was going to buy one of those for her. So she worked for a telephone company, as a truck driver, as a photographer to pay for it. And she would probably suggest that you do the same until you've saved up to buy a new phone. To get started, try volunteering for odd jobs around your own home. My dad used to give me 25 cents for sweeping the driveway, and a whole $1 if I cleaned the fireplace. Whew. Now, keep in mind, when I started work, minimum wage was $3.78, I think, my first job. Anyway, here is our quote. It's an excerpt from Amelia Earhart's letter to her husband before her last flight. Quote, please know I'm quite aware of the hazards. I want to do it because I want to do it. Women must try to do things as men have tried. When they fail, their failure must be but a challenge to others around them. And here she is. And as you know, I will post a picture so that you can color your own portrait of Amelia Earhart. And tomorrow we're going to learn about Frida Kahlo, rebel artist. All right, I hope you enjoyed learning about Amelia Earhart, and I will see you later today probably, and tomorrow with more women's history. Bye-bye.